Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're here, you're either trying to fall asleep, procrastinate, or you've somehow decided that ancient suffering makes great background noise. In all cases, you're right. So go ahead, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan.
Get cozy.
No judgment if you're wrapped up like a human burrito.
Maybe you're sipping tea.
Maybe you're hiding from your inbox. But tonight, we're not staying in your quiet modern room with climate control and dental care. Nope. Tonight, you're going back. Not to a fairy tale, not to a toga party, but to the dirt-caked, blood-soaked underside of the Roman Empire. Welcome to your one and only day as a Roman gladiator. Spoiler, you're gonna hate it. And yes, you there in your memory, foam bed with 2 pillows and a lavender diffuser. You won't last past breakfast. Like and subscribe if that sounds like your kind of nightmare. And let me know in the comments what time you're listening. Working, relaxing, lying awake, wondering how the world went so wrong. Okay, deep breath. You're about to wake up in the body of someone who exists solely for the amusement of other people's bloodlust. No pressure. You are horizontal, but not in a way that suggests comfort. The ground beneath you is packed earth sprinkled with straw ash and something that smells like fermented urine, which is generous, honestly. Your mattress, if we can even call it that, is a collection of burlap sacks. One stuffed with hay, now mostly lumpy with mold and rat droppings. Congratulations, you're waking up in the Ludus, the Gladiator training barracks. Think dormitory if dormitories had barred windows, shared lice, and the occasional corpse. You open your eyes. It's still dark, but not fully night. That greasy grey pre-dawn glow filters through the cracked wooden shutters. You're sharing this room with about 20 other men, all of whom are snoring, coughing, or silently weeping in their sleep. You try to sit up, but your back protests. Yesterday's practice left you with a rib that may or may not be broken. Either way, no one's checking. You're not a person. Your property, the Lannister, the man who owns you, paid good coin for your body, but not for your comfort. You scratch your chest. Bad idea. Your fingernails come away with the underwhelming prize of dead skin and one very alive louse. It's the 5th this week. You flick it off and wonder if it'll crawl back later. It probably will. Lice have more rights here than you do. You reach for your tunic, or rather your glorified rag. It's stiff from dried sweat and blood and smells like a combination of old feet and vinegar. No, it doesn't get washed. Water is for drinking, and even that's a gamble. You pull it over your head, wincing as the coarse fabric drags across scabs, bruises, and that rash that's been slowly winning a territory war on your inner thigh. Someone groans next to you. It's Flaccus, a Thracian, who came in last month. He's younger than you, thinner still, clinging to the hope of survival. Poor guy, still has dreams. He mumbles something about his wife. You don't bother responding. You don't remember her name. You barely remember yours. There's no gentle alarm clock, no bird song, just the clang of a metal rod on iron bars. One of the guards, whose entire job seems to be shouting and looking vaguely bored, barks something about lining up in the yard. You drag yourself to your feet. You haven't even stood fully upright yet, and your calves are already screaming. The bruises on your thighs from yesterday's wooden sword practice throb like angry grapes. Still think you're Zoom meeting is hard. Out in the courtyard, the air is cold and wet, not fresh, just damp. Like wet wool, the mildew had a baby. The kind of chill that seeps straight through your joints and makes your teeth clack without permission. You join the lineup. No one talks. Talking gets you punished. Smiling, that'll earn you ridicule. Whistling, you must be suicidal. A bucket is passed down. Inside breakfast, if you can call it that. It's more of a mash, warm, greyish sludge, with bits of barley, Maybe lentils, possibly rat. Honestly, you've stopped trying to identify the chunks. It's not for pleasure, it's fuel. The bucket is communal. Yes, you all eat from it. No, there aren't spoons. You take a handful and try not to gag as it slides down your throat like lukewarm vomit. Nutritional, sure. Palatable. That's a rich man's luxury. You cough. There's blood in it. Maybe from yesterday's sparring. Maybe from something else. Doesn't matter. No one will check. You could drop dead right now. And the only thing they do is weigh you to see how much meat they lost. You hear the door to the training yard creak open. Time to get to work. Practice. Combat drills. Punishment. If you're too slow, too weak, or too unlucky, you remember the words of your trainer from last week. You don't need skill. You need to bleed pretty. And just like that, your day officially begins. You shuffle into the training yard with the rest of the human meat parade, your feet dragging through the muddy gravel, like they're trying to crawl back into the barracks and pretend this isn't happening. But the yelling starts before you can even blink the cold out of your eyes. Drills today, basic sword work again. Because the crowd doesn't pay to see grace, they pay to see gore. And that means you need to swing until your arms go numb again and again and again. They hand you a wooden practice sword that somehow weighs more than the real thing, and every splinter in the handle makes your palms flinch, the skin already raw from yesterday's failed attempt to block a blow from Crixus, who is not just built like a barbarian war elephant, but also swings like one. You're paired off randomly because fairness died about the same time the Republic did. And today, your opponent is Diodorus, who once beat a man unconscious for looking at him wrong, and has what can only be described as enthusiastic contempt for your continued breathing. And so it begins. Wooden sword slamming, cracking, bruising. Your ribs take the first hit. Your thigh, the second your pride, never stood a chance. Your breath is a wheeze, your back is soaked, and you've lost feeling in your fingers around the third round. But you keep going because stopping means a lash, and you already have enough scars to play tic-tac-toe on your back nearby the trainer Doctore, because Latin sounds fancier than sadistic screaming man with a stick. Paces like a wolf, occasionally barks at someone, occasionally uses that stick on someone, and you keep hoping today it's not you, but it's always someone, and luck is a myth here. Anyway, they tell you to switch partners. Your legs are shaking, your mouth tastes like rust, someone's nose is broken again, and Flaccus is now vomiting behind the fence from heat stroke, or fear, or both. And you wonder, not for the first time, what your life would have looked like if you hadn't gotten caught stealing that bread. Or maybe it was punching that tax collector. Or maybe you just had the bad luck of being born on the wrong street in the wrong class with the wrong face. Because it doesn't matter anymore. You belong to the Empire now. And the Empire loves a show. You take another hit this time to the shoulder and you almost fall. The pain is white, blinding, dizzying, but not unexpected, because this is the routine, the system, the daily beatings before breakfast, the reminder that your bones are tools, not parts of a person, and they'll be used until they crack and crumble and get buried with no name. The doctor stops the drill and gives a speech about honor and death and glory, as if any of you have a choice, and someone claps out of reflex and gets smacked for sarcasm. Not that sarcasm survives long here. There's no one to laugh, not really. You're too tired, too sore, too busy, not dying to enjoy irony. Someone faints, no one helps. Someone limps away with a dislocated arm, no one blinks. And all of it is normal, expected routine, because pain is the price of staying alive one more day. and you can't afford to flinch, not in training, not in the arena, not in your own skull. Even when it's pounding from dehydration and the sun begins to rise higher, hotter, angrier, you're told to stop and line up again. No water yet. First inspection. The lanista strolls out like a man inspecting horses, which is exactly what this is. You are livestock, muscle mass and fight potential. He doesn't ask how you're feeling. He looks at bruises and blood, clicks his tongue, calls someone useless. Maybe it was you, maybe not, who cares? You're told to go clean yourself, but not in the nice self-care Sunday kind of way. More in the there's a bucket out back kind of way. And so, you do stumbling toward the corner where a barrel of brownish water and a rag wait for you. Like old enemies, you splash some over your arms, your face, maybe rinse the worst of the blood off. But honestly, you just smear the filth around and call it progress. The rag smells like mildew and shame, and the water is ice cold and still. Somehow not refreshing, but at least it stops the itching briefly, not the lice. Those are committed, lifelong companions now. But the sweat, the grime, the feeling that you've become more infection than man, and still, as you wipe your face and look at your reflection in the water, all you see is a stranger. Hollow-eyed, sunken-cheeked, with a broken nose and a future measured in weeks. If that a body built for spectacle, a life boiled down to crowd noise and death avoidance. And just then, you hear the bell again, signaling midday meal, or as it's known around here, a chance to fight over stale bread. And you think, wow, I survived morning. What an achievement. What a miracle. What a mistake. You walk, or more accurately, limp back into the barracks, skin still wet, and clothes sticking to your body like punishment for existing. Your legs shaking from effort, your shoulders stiff, and your stomach making noises that sound like it's planning a revolt. Lunch is handed out, or more precisely, thrown at you, by a bored slave with a bucket and a ladle. It's a mash again, always a mash. This time with something resembling fish and definitely smelling like regret. You squat against the wall to eat it with your hands, same as everyone else. No spoons, no dignity, just hunger, and you shovel it into your mouth with a speed that would impress a sewer rat. Not because it's good, but because it's there, because calories are currency here, and weakness gets you killed. Flaccus sits beside you, still pale, still shaking. He's whispering prayers to a god you're not sure even exists anymore. Maybe Jupiter, maybe Fortuna, maybe one of those bloodier ones who seem to enjoy your suffering more than they answer your calls across the yard. A new recruit cries quietly into his food. Nobody comforts him. You all cried once too. Now there's just an understanding. The tears stop when the screaming starts. The meal ends in silence, always does, and you're ordered to the quartermaster for gear fitting, because it turns out you've been selected for tomorrow's event. Oh joy, and that means armor, which in theory sounds cool, but in reality means you're about to be strapped into a set of second-hand metal torture devices that don't fit, don't bend, and don't protect nearly enough of your extremely stab-sensitive anatomy. The quartermaster is a retired soldier with half an ear and even less patience. He hands you a galea, a heavy iron helmet with a nose guard, and a faint smell of blood you know isn't yours, and tells you not to complain, as if the chafing alone won't make your neck feel like it's been sanded with iron filings. Next is the manica, an arm guard made of overlapping metal plates that clang with every movement and digs into your elbow. If you breathe wrong, you're told this is protection, but really it just limits your ability to swing or block, which is exactly what the crowd loves. Watching you flail around like an angry turtle. He slaps a short scutum shield into your hands, big enough to give false hope, too small to actually help. And then the gladius, the iconic Roman short sword, sharp, heavy, balanced to kill, but not for you. It's for them, for the audience, for the men in the front row, with wine-stained lips and clean sandals, who cheer. When your blood arcs into the dust, the gear hangs on you wrong, too loose in some places, too tight in others. The straps scratch your skin raw, and you realize as you try to adjust your helmet and fail. For the 5th time that no one really expects you to win. That's not the point. You're here to make dying look dramatic and entertaining. You're here to be the part of the play that gets remembered for the screaming, not the speech back in the yard. The doctorate gives you one more round of practice swings now in full gear. And it's worse. So much worse. The helmet limits your vision. The armor creaks with every movement and sweat pours down your spine like a river of misery. You try to breathe, but it's like inhaling through wet wool, and the sword feels like it doubles in weight every minute you swing. Miss-swing again, almost drop it, and the doctor laughs. You'll die before they get bored, he says, which is the closest thing to a compliment you've gotten all week. The session ends with a lecture about honor and discipline, and something about remembering that your death will reflect on your school and the Lanista and Rome itself. So don't screw it up, or you'll get punished before you die. You're told to go rest, but resting is a myth because your body is buzzing with exhaustion and your brain is racing with terror. And somewhere deep down, you know tomorrow isn't going to be a fight. It's going to be a funeral with bad choreography back in the barracks. You collapse onto your straw mat again, this time fully armored, because taking it off would take energy you don't have. And you lie there, helmet tilted awkwardly on your brow, your arms aching from holding a sword. You didn't ask for your chest tight with the knowledge that your name will never be remembered, that you're a footnote in someone else's victory speech, a prop in someone else's glory, and you close your eyes not to sleep, but just to pretend for 1 second that this isn't real, that you'll wake up in your own bed under your own roof, not surrounded by snoring strangers and the faint smell of human despair. And just as you start to drift, the night watch comes in and barks at you to get up, because apparently there's a sacrifice being made to Mars tonight, and all fighters must attend because nothing says holy offering like 50 sleep-deprived men standing shirtless in the cold, chanting at a blood-stained altar. And you rise again because you have to, because refusal means flogging, and flogging means infection, and infection means the kind of death that doesn't come with applause. You drag yourself outside the moon. Overhead is pale and unsympathetic, and the priest begins the rites, mumbling Latin over a bleating goat that looks almost as tired as you do. And when the knife comes down and the blood spills onto the stones, you feel nothing, not horror, not piety, just numbness, the kind that settles in your bones and never leaves, the kind that makes you think, this is normal now, this is my life. Blood and sweat and bruises and fear. And if the gods are watching, they're doing it for the entertainment value. And hey, if you thought today was awful, just wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow, you step into the arena, and the real fun begins. You don't wake up, you snap awake, like someone jammed a javelin into your chest and screamed showtime. Your eyes burst open before the sun does, and for one glorious moment, you don't remember where you are. Then the smells hit you, sweat rust, sour meat, and the unmistakable stench of human fear simmering in straw. Right, you're not a man, you're a commodity. Today's main course at the Empire's favorite murder festival. You're going to the arena. No, not as a spectator. That would be fun. You're the entertainment, the unpaid expendable oversweating main act. There's no breakfast. Of course not. Who needs calories when you're expected to sprint fight and possibly die under the gaze of 50,000 sun-drenched Romans you're handed water, barely a cup. It's lukewarm, tastes like it was filtered through sadness, but you gulp it like it's liquid gold. You're told not to drink too much. Wouldn't want you throwing up in front of the Emperor, the handler says, and laughs. You do not laugh. You have a sword to polish. Yes, polish, not for effectiveness, for aesthetics. See, today isn't just about survival. It's about optics. Rome likes her violence glamorous. Shiny blades, oiled abs, and clean wounds that squirt like a public fountain. You're told to oil your arms and chest. It catches the light better, says the quartermaster, handing you a flask of something that smells like expired olives and regret. You slather it on. It's sticky, cold, dehumanizing. Perfect. Then comes the armor. Not practical armor, not real protection. This is costume armor, made for show, not defense. You strap on the greaves too short to protect your shins. The Balteus belt digs into your ribs. Your helmet iron, heavy with a ridiculous crest that makes you look like a chicken headed into battle, gets shoved onto your head and immediately begins cooking your skull like a terracotta pot in the summer sun. There is no comfort, no symmetry, no real hope, just the itchy knowledge that in a few hours, people will be placing bets on whether you scream louder going in or bleeding out. You march in silence, alongside the others. Some you know Flaccus, who looks like he's already halfway to passing out. Diodorus, who seems alarmingly excited about the whole killing part. And others you don't. Fresh recruits, nervous, pale, mumbling prayers to every Roman god, plus a few foreign ones for backup. You all move through a narrow stone corridor, torch-lit and damp, toward the Porta Sana Vivaria, the gate of the living. Yes, that's what it's called. Charming, right? On the other side, the arena, the Colosseum, the Flavian Amphitheatre. You've seen it from a distance. Massive, circular, monstrous. But now you're under it, beneath the sand, beneath the stage, in the belly of the beast. The rumble above your head is not thunder, it's applause, feet stomping, voices screaming, 50,000 strangers begging the gods for gore. It sounds like a hurricane made of bloodlust. And then the horn, low, long, final, time to go. The gates creak open, sunlight pours in, hot and golden and blinding. You walk out onto the sand. The arena floor is vast and endless and terrifying. The sun bakes your armor. Your feet sink into the warm grit. You smell blood, old and new, mixed with roasted meat from vendors in the crowd. You hear cheers and laughter and coins being tossed. You are not a man. You are a gamble, a show, a disposable plot twist in someone's afternoon. There is no warm-up, no speech, no countdown. The other man is across from you. You've never met. Doesn't matter. He's got a trident and a net. You've got a short sword and half a death wish. He charges. You react on instinct. Duck. Block. Swing. The crowd roars. You miss. He doesn't. The net slashes your arm. Tears a chunk of flesh like peeling a fruit. You scream. The crowd cheers louder. You stumble, blood dripping. The sand sticks to it. Burns in the wound. You swing again. Desperation now. No strategy. No thought. Just survival. He steps back. You lunge. Your sword connects. It sinks into his side. He cries out. Falls. You stand over him, panting, blood running down your arm. You look up. The editor, the master of ceremonies, raises his hand. The crowd screams. Thumbs go up, some go down. It's not a vote, it's a mood. A bloodthirsty Roman vibe check. The editor waits, then gives the signal misses. Mercy. The other man will live. For now, you collapse to your knees not from emotion, but because you can't stand anymore. Your legs are gone. Your body is vibrating with shock. You don't even notice the handlers dragging you back through the gate, back into the dark. And as the sunlight fades behind you, you think, was that the main event? No, that was just a warm-up bout. You're still alive, which means you're still on the schedule. You thought that was your gladiator fight. Oh no, you're on deck for a beast match next. Lions, hyenas, maybe a bear, all hungry, all angry, all very real. And yes, you're still bleeding. You don't get water. You don't get stitches. You don't even get a moment to think. You get dragged. 2 handlers grab you by the arms like you're a sack of old onions and haul you down another corridor. This one even darker, tighter. The smell shifting from blood to something more primal. Something feral. You're dumped against the wall. Groaning vision swimming, arms still bleeding freely like a cheap wineskin. And that's when you hear it. Low, guttural, a sound that doesn't belong in human civilization. A growl, followed by claws on stone. They're not even trying to be subtle about it. You're about to be thrown into the beast match. And no, they didn't tell you what animal it is. They don't need to. That's part of the fun for the audience. Surprise mauling. Who doesn't love a little mystery with their murder? You sit there panting, watching 2 slaves in tunics smeared with dung and straw carry a heavy wooden cage across the corridor. Something inside it shifts. You don't look. You don't want to. The moment you make eye contact with whatever's in there is the moment you lose the will to run. A medic passes you a cloth. No herbs. No bandage. Just a rag. He mumbles something about tying it tight, so the lions don't smell fresh blood so quick. You look up. Lions. He shrugs. Could be. Thanks. That clears it up. You're handed a spear. It's not new. It's not sharp. It's barely straight. But it's a pointy stick. And the only thing standing between you and becoming a feline lunch special, you're led through a side tunnel past a wall covered in scratch marks, old and fresh. At one point, you swear you see a tooth embedded in the stone. Human. Definitely human. Then the gate opens. Light again. Cheers again. Louder this time. This crowd isn't here for a duel. This crowd wants carnage. You step into the arena again, blinking against the sun. Your blood-soaked rag is already leaking down your forearm. You wobble into position, spear in hand, legs, weak breath short. And then opposite you, the iron gate rises. Slowly, painfully, and out it walks. Not a lion, not a hyena, but worse, a leopard. Faster, lower to the ground, less predictable. Its coat is slick with oil. They do that to make it look shinier under the sun, more majestic and more slippery. You can't grab what you can't hold. It snarls at the sight of you. The crowd hushes. The big moment. You do what any sensible human would do. You freeze. The cat does not. It starts pacing. Left, right, eyes locked on yours, calculating. And you suddenly understand in your bones, in your soul, why people invented gods. Because you need something, anything to beg to right now. Then it pounces. You don't have time to scream. You barely have time to raise the spear. Somehow, by miracle or panic, you twist just enough to avoid the full hit. Its claw grazes your thigh. Pain blossoms like fire. You stab, miss, and stumble backward into the sand. The beast circles. You lurch up, slipping, dragging the spear like a crutch. The crowd loves it. You're not a warrior. You're a wounded animal playing defense. This is better than theater. This is real. It lunges again. You jab. This time you connect barely. The point scrapes against its flank. It hisses, backs off. Blood. Not much, but enough for the audience to roar. You're locked in now. You and it. 2 two creatures trapped in the same ring, both too afraid to die and too angry to live. Eventually, miraculously, it ends. The handlers blow whistles, throw chains, meet distractions. They wrangle the beast back into its cage, while it snarls and thrashes. You drop the spear. You're shaking. Your arms, your legs, even your teeth. You fall again. Not out of choice, but because gravity has a stronger argument than you do right now. You're dragged back to the tunnel. Someone slaps you on the back and says something like, "Nice show." You don't answer. You're too busy trying not to vomit. Your thigh is bleeding now. Your arm still hasn't stopped. You're dizzy, hollowed out your mouth, dry as sand, and your brain echoing with the sound of an audience that just witnessed your near death. Like it was lunchtime entertainment. You're tossed into the dark again. Someone dumps a bucket of water over you, not to clean you, to keep you conscious. You cough, sputter, and hear the doctor's voice somewhere nearby. One more round today, then rest. If you're still breathing, one more round. You almost laugh. Almost. But your ribs ache too much, so you just lie there soaked. Shaking, bleeding, wondering how in the name of every Roman god this is still the same day. And just when you think it can't get worse, someone informs you that next up is a group match. 10 men, one prize, one survivor. Yes, you're all on the same team until you're not. You're not even dry when they start dragging you toward the next staging tunnel, one on the opposite side of the arena. The one they keep for special events. And nothing good has ever come out of a Roman-labeled special, unless your definition of fun involves blunt trauma and lifelong emotional damage. This one's a crowd favorite. They say a cooperative elimination match, which is a fancy way of saying all of you start as allies and one of you walks out with your gut still. Mostly inside the handlers explain the rules with the casual tone of someone reading a dinner menu. 10 men enter, fight a few rounds against some wild animals and disposable criminals, and then surprise twist you, fight each other. Last one standing gets a prize, which might be food or a blanket, or if the crowd's really generous, one whole day without being punched. The rest get dragged out like spilled wine barrels, some still twitching, some not. You're tossed a heavier shield this time, not for defense, but because the weight makes it funnier when you fall. Your sword is chipped, your legs are jelly, your blood is still trying to clot in 3 places. You glance around. The other men look just like you, tired, bleeding half mad with fear, trying not to make eye contact, because everyone here knows how this ends, and it's never with hugs. The horn sounds again. You're shoved through the gate. Your 3rd time in this death circus today, and it never gets easier. This time the sand feels hotter, stickier, like it remembers the others who bled here before you. There's no intro, no speech, just chaos. First wave criminals, 5 of them, gaunt, wild-eyed, armed with sticks and rocks and desperation. They scream and charge. You and your group form a loose line. There's no coordination, no training, just instinct. You jab forward, block, swing. The first man who reaches you lunges with a shard of wood. You sidestep and smash your shield into his face. It feels like hitting wet clay. He drops. Someone else grabs your arm. You twist, slash. The crowd loves it. Screams, applause, coins raining down. You kill, maybe twice. You lose count. Everything's heat and movement and noise. Then the second wave. 2 wild dogs, half-starved teeth, bared fur, patchy with mange. They're more terrifying than the men. Faster, lower. One bites Flaccus's leg and won't let go. You stab it in the ribs. It yelps. Keeps going. You stab again. It dies. You don't even feel triumphant. You feel numb, hollow, like your soul has checked out and left your body behind to handle the paperwork. Then silence. You and the others stand panting, covered in blood, some of it yours, most of it not. You count 8 of you left, 2 gone already. One's missing an ear. Another has a limp that screams easy target, and then the bell rings again. You freeze, because now it's time for the twist. The battle royale, the fun part. The announcer bellows something in Latin about glory and fate, and then says, in a voice like honey poured over knives, now only one may leave. And that's it. No countdown. No whistle. Just everyone slowly turning toward each other with the same realization clawing through their skulls. It's either you or them. You grip your sword tighter. Your hand is shaking. You look at Flaccus, his leg still bleeding, his eyes pleading, and he opens his mouth to say something. Maybe don't. Maybe help me. You'll never know, because someone tackles him from behind and drives a blade into his back. He screams. You flinch. Another man goes down beside you, and suddenly the arena is a blender of limbs and betrayal. You don't think, you just react. Block, swing, duck, stab. The man who tried to tackle you now has a sword through his neck. You didn't even realize you'd moved. Another comes at you with a broken shield. You throw sand in his face and slash his leg. He drops. You don't finish him. Someone else does. It's grotesque. It's chaotic. It's evil. And the crowd is loving every moment. You take a blow to the ribs. Hard. You gasp. Feel something shift inside. Not good. But you stay up. Because down means dead. The others are thinning. 4 now. 3, 2, you. Just you. Breathing hard. Standing alone in the circle of carnage. Covered in filth. Your mouth dry. Your sword heavy. And then cheering. Applause like a wave. Coins hit the sand around you. Someone throws a laurel wreath. It lands at your feet. They love you. For now. Not because you're brave. Not because you're strong. Because you entertained them. Because you bled in the right rhythm. Died slightly slower than expected. You are declared victor. You are handed water. Not much, but cold, sweet. You drink. You almost cry. You are led away. Not on a chariot. Not with honor. You limp. Quietly. Back through the tunnels. And in that moment, sweating, broken, bleeding alone, you understand the most Roman thing of all. Survival isn't victory. It's permission to suffer again tomorrow. And if you think you're headed for rest now, think again. Next is your daily appointment with the Roman gods. Because if the lions don't kill you, the guilt will. They don't give you a real break. Just enough time for your hands to stop shaking and your hearing to come back. You're leaning against a stone wall, blinking through the haze, your breath rasping like you're inhaling sandpaper. Your lips are cracked. Your fingers ache from gripping that chipped sword, like it was the only thing separating you from the underworld, which it kind of was. A priest shows up, not with comfort, not with a prayer that means anything. He's dressed in layers of wool, white linen, and a gold-stitched stole. The kind of man who smells like incense and superiority. He announces that all surviving gladiators must participate in a Thanksgiving ritual, to Mars of course, because nothing says gratitude like offering your blood to the god of war, with your knees still buckling from blood loss. You're led hobbling, limping, blinking in disbelief to a makeshift shrine behind the arena. It's just a raised platform. Some blackened bronze statues and a stone slab so stained with dried blood, it might as well be a permanent paint job. The priest chants in Latin. You don't listen. You're busy trying not to pass out. Another priest holds a knife. Sacrificial, decorative, but sharp. You recognize the type. The kind they use to slit goat throats for auspicious weather, or human ones, if the omens look bad enough. A goat is dragged out, wide-eyed, mewling. It knows. You all know. There's a rope around its neck and a wreath around its horns. Its fat trembling innocent, just like you were before Rome broke you into something marketable. The prayer starts. Something about courage. Honor Mars's favor. The Empire's glory. You're ordered to kneel. Your legs protest. You kneel anyway. Blood trickles down your calf. The man beside you coughs wetly. Probably internal damage. Doesn't matter. He won't make it to nightfall. The goat bleats. The priest nods. The knife flashes. One cut. Clean. Efficient. The blood spurts onto the stone. The goat jerks. Then slumps. You watch it all happen with an emptiness you didn't think you were capable of before today. Now for your part. One by one, you each step forward to touch the goat's blood and smear it across your forehead. It's warm, sticky. You can smell the iron. The priest says it's a blessing. You say nothing. Your mouth is dry. Your stomach is twisting not from the ritual, but from the fact that this has become normal. You repeat the chant they give you. You ask Mars to let you live longer, not because you want to, but because dying slower is technically winning here. The ritual ends with burned offerings. Some incense, a loaf of stale bread, and a few bronze coins tossed into a brazier. You don't have coins. A guard throws one in for you. Not for good luck. For tax records. You're allowed to stand, or wobble, or crawl. However, you can get back into the barracks. On your way, you pass the crowd dispersing. Rich men and their sons laughing, drunk, slapping backs, talking about that one guy with the limp or the way the leopard almost got him. You know they're talking about you. And somehow, that's worse than if they weren't. You reach the barracks. It's dusk now. The light slants through the high windows like something holy. But all it does is illuminate the filth in every corner. The place reeks of sour sweat, moldy hay, old blood and boiled lentils. You collapse onto your mat. It's not softer. You've just given up on noticing. The lice are still here. The itching never stopped. You scratch. You groan. You stare at the ceiling beams and wonder what it would be like to see a tree again. A clean river. A dog that doesn't bite. You wonder what happened to your name. What it used to feel like. What your mother's voice sounded like. What you did to deserve this. You get no answers. You shift. Trying to find a position that doesn't press on something broken or bleeding. There isn't one. Your arm pulses. Your ribs stab every time you inhale. Your skin burns where the priest smeared goat blood. You're starting to believe you might die in your sleep. Not from wounds, but from the sheer weight of being. A voice beside you murmurs something about dreams. You don't respond. You haven't dreamed in weeks. Only flashes. Swords. Screams. Firelight. Sand. You close your eyes. The barracks are quiet now. Save for the scratching of straw. The occasional cough. The creak of someone turning over. And the soft hum of men pretending they aren't afraid to sleep. Because when you're a gladiator, the only thing worse than waking up is having the luxury to dream. But hey, maybe tomorrow will be better. Maybe you'll get lucky and only have to fight one person before lunch. Next up, we finally talk about what you're wearing and why it's the single worst part of this entire existence. Spoiler, you smell like sheep fungus and fear. Morning again, if you can call it that. You never really slept, not with your ribs whining and your thigh leaking. And a bed that's basically hay, flavored with blood and disappointment. The light bleeding through the window isn't soft or gentle. It's just there, flat, grey, like Rome's given up on pretending this place deserves a sunrise. You're already sweating. The barracks don't breathe. The air's thick with snoring and the faint crackle of scratching lice. Always lice your constant companions. You stretch or try to and your muscles scream in protest. Everything aches. Your fingers are swollen. Your knees sound like two amphorae cracking open. You wonder briefly if today's the day your body just says no. But of course it doesn't. It's not allowed to. Because today is a show day. And that means wardrobe. Now let's get one thing straight. You don't wear gladiator gear. You endure it. There's no elegant armor, no fitted breastplates, no flowing cloaks, unless you count the sweat-soaked rag tied around your neck to keep flies from landing directly in your wounds. Your standard outfit. One scratchy tunic, made from unwashed wool so rough it could sand down wood. It's sleeveless knee-length and so thin it might as well be a suggestion. It smells like sheep mildew and other people's regret. And today, it's damp. Why, no one knows. Maybe it was washed. Maybe someone peed on it. Both are equally likely. You pull it over your head, slowly, carefully, because everything underneath bruises, cuts, bandaged, gashes, reacts like you're pouring acid on an open wound. The wool drags across your shoulder like barbed wire. You hiss, not because it's polite, but because your brain has run out of curse words. Then the sandals. Oh gods, the sandals. They're made of leather stiff as tree bark and tied with thongs that wrap halfway up your calf, like some cruel joke from a fashion designer with a grudge against circulation. They chafe, always. There's no pair that fits, just pairs that hurt in different places. You pick the ones that don't make your toes bleed, just your heels. Next, you get your armor. Well armor. It's really more like rust with straps. You're handed your manicure, the arm guard that scrapes your elbow raw. You cinch it up anyway. Then your belt, the Baltius, which digs into your gut, like it's trying to restart your digestive system via trauma. Someone throws you a helmet. It's still warm from whoever wore it last. And yes, you can smell them. Their fear, their blood, their scalp. You jam it on anyway. There's no mirror. That would be a luxury. But you don't need one. You feel ridiculous. Your tunic is crooked. Your belt's loose on one side. Your legs are scratched from yesterday. You smell like a cursed sheep farm. And your face. Let's just say, if this were a makeover show, you'd be the before photo. Everyone laughs at. You try to adjust your gear, but the strap snaps. You fix it with twine. That's the level we're working with here. Battle ready via household string. Meanwhile, a man across the room is complaining that his helmet's too tight. The trainer smacks him in the mouth with a stick and tells him tight helmets keep the brains from falling out. No one laughs. It's not a joke. That's genuinely the medical plan. You line up, each of you in your awkward little outfits looking like broken toys waiting to be played with. The doctor walks down the line checking for readiness. He doesn't look at your wounds. He checks your posture, your hands, your eyes. If you're shaking too much, you get a slap. If you look too confident, you get a slap. If you breathe. Funny, guess what? Another slap. He stops in front of you. Your helmet is crooked. He fixes it by punching the top so hard it jams tighter onto your skull. Your ears ring. Your nose bleeds a little. He nods. Better. They call this presentation. It's the ritual before the performance. The parade before the bloodbath. You're led single file into a holding pen just behind the arena gates. The crowd is already roaring. They haven't even seen you yet. You try not to think about it, about how you look, about how every person in that crowd is here to see you fail beautifully. You try not to think about the sweat crawling down your back, the scratch of the wool, the ache in your hip, the smear of old blood across your knee. You try not to think about how humiliating it is standing here dressed like a sweaty, underfed parody of a soldier waiting to be thrown into a ring like meat with a name tag. You just breathe. In, out. The helmet makes it hard. The padding smells like mold and terror. The chin strap cuts into your throat. The gate begins to creak open. You step forward, and once again you realize you are not a person. You are not a soldier. You are not a hero. You are a costume that screams when stabbed. And you still haven't eaten today. Next up. Let's talk about what happens after the show, when your body's breaking. The applause fades, and all you've got left is pain rot. And Rome's version of healthcare. Spoiler, it's mostly wine and hope. The gate slams shut behind you. Again, for the fourth time today. You've survived more bouts than you can count. Somehow, not dead, somehow, not unconscious, but absolutely thoroughly wrecked. Your legs feel like wet rope. Your shoulders scream with every twitch. There's blood in your eye, and you're not sure if it's yours. You think it isn't. That's somehow worse. You can't even tell anymore. All you know is you're alive. And that's about the only thing you and a worm have in common right now. You're marched back to the barracks with the rest of the survivors, if you can call them that. Flaccus is gone. So is the guy who kept spitting teeth during the second fight. The guy who soiled himself halfway through a bear match is missing too. You don't ask where they went. You already know. They're either in a pit or in a wheelbarrow being rolled to a pit. Rome doesn't do sentimentality. It does statistics. You were one of 10 today. Now you're one of 4. Inside the barracks, the air is thick with heat rust, and that metallic tang that tells you someone's got an open wound and no one's fixing it. You drop to your mat or collapse onto it. Either way, you land with a grunt and nearly black out from the pain that explodes through your ribs. You think something's cracked. Could be bone, could be spirit. Someone hands you a cloth. It's damp. It smells like vinegar and stale sweat. And it's supposed to be for cleaning your wounds. You press it to your side anyway and scream into your own shoulder because it burns. Then you realize why. Someone added wine to it. Roman antiseptic. Vintage last week's leftovers. Across the room, one of the trainers is trying to reset a dislocated shoulder. With his foot, the patient is biting down on a stick, and not in a poetic warrior way. More like in a, please don't scream so loud, it attracts the rats way. Another man still in partial armor. His lip split down the middle is being stitched with what looks like fishing line. The needle is bronze. The hands doing the sewing are shaking, and every time it punctures flesh, the poor bastard flinches like he's being electrocuted. No one speaks. There's no chatting. No bonding. Just grunts, shivers, groans, a few whispered prayers to minor household gods who probably aren't listening. Because let's be real, if any deity was listening, they've already hit mute on this whole building. You peel off your tunic, slowly, carefully. It sticks to your chest like a second skin. When you finally pull it free, it brings a few scabs with it. You don't even react. That's just how it works now. You clean what you can with the vinegar rag. It helps a little, mostly with convincing you that infection is just a fun new way to meet your end. There's no bandage, no ointment. You take a strip from the hem of someone else's discarded tunic, tie it around your arm, and call it medicine. Welcome to Gladiator Healthcare, brought to you by budget cuts and good intentions. Eventually, a slave comes around with a jug of wine. Not the good stuff, not even the bad stuff. This is vinegar steeped with herbs and regret, but it's drinkable. Barely. You take a gulp. It stings your cracked lips and your raw throat, but at least it dulls the edges of the pain, just slightly. The others are starting to sleep, or trying to. One is weeping silently, his back to the wall, hands over his face. Another is carving something into the floorboards with a shard of broken pottery. Maybe a name, maybe a curse. You don't ask. Your head's pounding. Your ribs feel like they've been hammered into gravel, and every breath comes with a sharp stab just beneath your left lung. You close your eyes anyway, because there's nothing else to do. You can't think, can't move, can't cry. You can only be, and somewhere deep in the throbbing mess of your body, a thought creeps in. This is just one day. One day. You've got more ahead. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe the day after. There's no retirement plan here. No discharge. Just death or maiming. Or if you're really lucky enough, fame to become a state-sponsored mascot and slowly rot with a slightly larger bedroll. But don't worry. Tomorrow will be better. It'll just start with a rat crawling across your chest and another prayer that your guts stay on the inside this time. Next up, social hierarchy, Roman justice, and how being poor basically means you're guilty by default. You wake up before the sun because of course you do. Not because you're rested. Not because your body is healed. You wake up because a rat is chewing on your foot wrap. Again, you twitch. It squeaks and scurries off into the shadows like every other dream you've had in here. You don't bother chasing it. That would require energy. And you're currently using all your energy just to exist. You sit up slowly, like you're rising from the dead, which you basically are. Your tunic is still damp from last night's sweat. Your wounds have crusted into fresh colors, deep reds, puss-glazed yellows. That greenish-blue shade that means your body is trying its best. But the gods aren't returning calls right now. Someone outside yells for morning inspection. You groan. You stand. You wobble. Welcome to the Gladiator version of a corporate performance review. You shuffle out into the yard, joining the others in line. Everyone looks like a parody of health. Bruises where faces should be. Backs bent like overcooked reeds. A parade of trauma, held together by scar tissue and misplaced hope. The Lannister walks down the line. He's clean, shaved, wearing a toga that probably costs more than your entire life. He's here to check on his assets. That's what you are. Not a fighter. Not a man. An asset. A walking investment with a risk portfolio that bleeds when kicked. He asks someone their name. They hesitate. He slaps them. For forgetting. For speaking. It doesn't matter. That's the point. Authority here is absolute and arbitrary, like a storm with fists. He stops in front of you. He lifts your chin with a stick, inspects your face like a fruit seller checking a bruised fig. You're not sure what he's looking for. Probably signs that you'll last at least one more fight. You don't hold your breath. Not because you're confident, because it hurts too much. He moves on. You breathe again. Then you're marched out of the ludus. Not into the arena, into the streets. Surprise, you're going on a field trip. Don't get excited, it's not a day off. You've been volunteered as part of a public spectacle. Something about honoring the gods and intimidating the public. A procession of discipline, they call it, which is a fancy phrase for parade of prisoners and meat shields. The crowd outside the barracks is buzzing. They cheer, spit, toss flower petals or rotten food, depending on mood. You march through the streets in your dirty tunic, alongside convicted thieves, debtors, slaves. Some are chained, some are sobbing. All of them look at you like you're something between a ghost and a cautionary tale. And everywhere you look, the freeborn Romans line the streets like smug statues. Men in white togas with smug grins and well-fed sons. Women with veils and perfume who clutch their noses as you pass. Children pointing and laughing. One of them throws a rock. It hits you in the shin. The crowd cheers. You don't flinch. Not because you're brave, because you're all already numb. You pass a magistrate's platform. A trial is being held in the open because why waste a room when you can mix law with spectacle? A slave is being accused of stealing a necklace. There's no proof, but the owner is rich. So guess what? The slave is guilty. The sentence, death by arena. The same arena you fought in yesterday. You lock eyes with him briefly. He knows what's coming. You do too. He's dragged away. No appeal. No delay. Rome believes in swift justice, especially when it's entertaining. And you're a reminder of that. You're the living embodiment of what happens when Rome gets bored. Eventually, the procession ends at a temple, not for worship, for display. You're arranged in rows, told to stand still. The priest waves incense, chants, shouts, something about virtus and disciplina. The crowd applauds. You are not thanked. You are not blessed. You are dismissed. Back to the barracks. You limp home exhausted from doing nothing but existing in public. When you finally collapse back onto your mat, your brain buzzes with one awful, bitter truth. You're at the bottom of a system built on sand and blood, born wrong, branded unworthy, a cog in a killing machine that grinds people into legends or landfill. And tomorrow, you get to do it all again, unless you die first. Next up, faith guilt, and why the gods probably hate you. You don't believe in the gods, or maybe you do, you're not sure anymore. Somewhere between your second arena match and the third time you watched a man scream for his mother, while holding his own intestines, you stopped thinking about belief and started thinking about survival. But Rome doesn't care what you believe. Rome requires belief, publicly, loudly, constantly, even if it's just for show, especially if it's just for show. So you perform it. Like everything else, it starts at dawn again, with another visit from the priest. This one wears black robes and carries a bronze ladle and a face that says, "I've never bled, but I've read about it." He smells like incense wine and something vaguely scorched. He's here to purify the ludus, which, if we're being honest, would require fire demolition and at least one divine flood. Instead, he sprinkles holy water on the doorpost and mutters prayers to Mars Fortuna and whoever else is on rotation today. You're made to line up again, kneel again, repeat after him again. You say the words without thinking, words that promise glory, valor, death with honor. You mouth them while trying not to scratch the lice bite behind your ear. It itches, so does your conscience. But that's easier to ignore. Afterward, he selects 3 of you for private blessings. You're one of them. Lucky you. You're taken to a side chamber, still inside the ludus, where there's a tiny shrine, stone altar, oil lamps, small statues of Mars Bellona, and a particularly angry-looking Jupiter, holding a lightning bolt like he's itching to use it. You're told to kneel again. You do, again. The priest anoints your forehead with oil, cold, thick, metallic, and says something about divine favor and blood oaths. Then comes the fun part, confession. Not the cozy kind. Not the tell me your secrets child kind. The tell me what you did to deserve all this kind. Because in Rome, suffering isn't random. It's punishment. For something. For anything. So you confess. Not because you're guilty. Because if you don't, the gods might think you're proud. You say you stole once. Bread maybe. You insulted a magistrate. You lied to a soldier. You hit someone. You didn't hit someone when you should have. You're not sure anymore. You just list things until the priest nods. He tells you the gods hear you, that they might be merciful. Might. Then he hands you a dagger, not to use on him, to cut your palm. Just a little. Just enough to show sincerity. You hesitate. For a second, then you slice. A shallow line across your left palm. It stings. It bleeds. The blood drips onto the altar. The priest mutters another prayer, then gives you a cup of wine to drink. It's warm, metallic. Possibly the same wine they used to clean a wound yesterday. You don't care. You drink it. It burns on the way down. Everything does. You're dismissed. Quietly, solemnly. You return to the barracks, blood still leaking between your fingers, wine buzzing behind your eyes, wondering what just happened. You were blessed, purified, absolved, or maybe just humiliated for sport. Hard to tell the difference these days. Across the room, another fighter is arguing about his gods. He's from somewhere far east. Talks about fire spirits, ancestors, fate. The trainer backhands him and tells him to shut up unless his ancestors want to sponsor the next festival. Faith is only useful here if it sells tickets. You lie back on your mat and stare at the beams overhead, wondering if Mars is watching you. If Jupiter noticed your cut. If Fortuna might finally throw a coin your way, instead of laughing as you trip down another blood-stained hallway. You close your eyes, not to sleep, just to escape the staring faces of 1,000 uncaring gods carved into every arch and gate of this place. There's a statue of Bellona by the entrance. Eyes hollow, hands outstretched, like she's welcoming you into war every time you leave the barracks. And every time you come back somehow, still breathing, you wonder if she's disappointed. Next up, let's talk about the environment. Not the nice kind, not meadows, not birdsong, just the heat, the rot, the wild dogs, and the unfiltered joy of ancient plumbing. You think maybe the weather might cut you a break today. It doesn't. Of course it doesn't. The morning air is already thick with heat, sticky, slow, oppressive. The kind of heat that doesn't just make you sweat. It makes you question everything. Life, purpose, the structural integrity of your own flesh. You're barely out of the barracks, and your tunic is already glued to your back like a second wetter skin. You shuffle into the courtyard for drills. Again, because healing time is for citizens. You're not a citizen. You're a meat puppet with a high bleed per minute rating. You plant your feet on the baked dirt, which is now more of a soft clay paste that sucks at your sandals and smells like ancient compost. The sun isn't just above you, it's on you, sitting there, watching you suffer like a lazy golden god with a magnifying glass. Your helmet bakes, your manica steams, your armpits become tiny hell worlds of sweat and abrasion. Your body isn't just sore, it's boiling. You feel cooked, half braised, a human stew, and that's just the beginning. You train, slowly, clumsily. The weapons burn in your hands. The dust rises with every step, gets into your nose, your throat, your eyes. You cough. The guy next to you coughs harder. He's got the deep kind, the wet kind. The kind that ends careers, if you can call gladiatoring a career. You step slightly away. The sun doesn't care. It just keeps melting you from the outside in. Eventually you're dismissed. Hydration, they say, like it's a joke. You stumble over to the water bucket. Not fresh, not clean, probably not even legal in 3 provinces, but it's wet. You dunk your face in and immediately regret it. It smells like feet and dead flowers. You drink anyway, then you're told to go clean up. You're excited until you remember what clean means here. There's no bathhouse for you. That's for citizens, for senators, for men who don't bleed for minimum entertainment value. You get the latrine fountain. It's a stone trough, cold sometimes, filled by a pipe that may or may not also serve the local sewer. There's a sponge on a stick floating in it. No, not for cleaning wounds, for wiping butts. Communally, you stare at it. It stares back. You splash your face, your neck, your arms. You try not to taste the water. You fail. It's gritty. It's ancient. It's probably half rat droppings and rainwater. And somehow you feel worse after using it. Then the dogs arrive. Not pets, not friendly strays. Wild, mange-ridden monsters with ribs showing and teeth like broken glass. They prowl the alleys around the ludus waiting for scraps, waiting for you to become a scrap. They're not aggressive unless you show weakness, which is all you are. One of them growls at you. You growl back. You win. Barely. It trots off. You keep an eye on it anyway. The ground here is never dry. Not really. Not after the rains. Not after the sewage runoff. There are puddles that have been here longer than most of the new recruits. They smell like vinegar and disease. You walk around them careful, even though your sandals are already halfway dissolved. In the summer, it's heat stroke. In the winter, it's frostbite. In the in-between months, it's floods mold. And the occasional mudslide into the training yard. You remember once seeing a man get swallowed by a trench of wet clay and not come back up for a full minute. When he did, he was missing a sandal and half his dignity. Even the air betrays you. It's filled with smoke from the cook fires, ash from burned offerings, and the smell of old meat, and worse hygiene. Every inhale tastes like punishment. And don't even get started on the insects. There are flies the size of coins, wasps that live in the training post, lice, fleas, mites, and one thing you saw crawling across your leg that no one's been able to identify. You swatted it. It bled green. You moved on. Eventually, You're sent inside for rest. You lie down on your straw mat if it hasn't molded over completely and try to sleep, but the roof leaks. You know it. There's a slow drip in the corner. It's not raining. You don't know why it's dripping, but it is, all the time, in the same rhythm, like a clock counting down to your eventual expiration. You pull your scratchy wool blanket over your head. It smells like mildew and someone else's feet. It's slightly damp. Everything is slightly damp. You close your eyes. Try to block it all out. The heat, the cold, the wet, the stink, the knowledge that you live in a place where the weather and the plumbing are actively trying to murder you, and somewhere drifting off into a shallow, restless half-sleep. You think maybe the lions had it easy. Next up, let's talk about food and water, and how everything you consume here is either stolen, spoiled, or slowly killing you. You wake up starving. Not I skip lunch starving. Not even college student with 12 cents starving. You wake up with your stomach folded in on itself like a dead scorpion, gnawing at your insides like it's trying to digest your own dignity. And it's not subtle about it. It growls, loudly, repeatedly. In the darkness, someone groans and mutters, "Shut it," but you can't. You're empty, hollow. You feel like a wineskin, someone squeezed dry and then used as a pillow. Eventually, you hear the clatter of the food bucket being dragged down the corridor. Yes, the bucket. Not a tray, not a plate. A dented iron bucket filled with what Rome generously calls breakfast. You shuffle forward with the others holding out your hands like a child begging for coins. You're handed a scoop of something grey, warm, vaguely sticky. It's barley porridge allegedly, but it's more the texture of mashed regret flecked with yesterday's char and possibly a dead fly. Bonus protein. You eat it with your fingers, because spoons are a luxury, like sleep. Or clean water. The porridge clings to your skin like paste. It tastes like wet cardboard, and you chew even though there's nothing to chew. You swallow. It goes down rough. Your throat is dry. You look around. Someone is licking their fingers. Someone else is scraping the sides of the bucket. One guy is whispering, "Chew slowly. It tricks the stomach." You're handed a chunk of bread, harder than stone, sharper than most of your memories. You suck on it until it softens. It doesn't. You gnaw anyway. It's stale, tasteless, and you think you just cracked a molar. Doesn't matter. It's calories. Barely. And that's the good meal. Lunch, maybe. Depends on who lost a bet or a fight. Sometimes you get beans, but they're crunchy and not in a lightly toasted way. More in a cooked by someone who hates teeth way. Other times it's lentils, watered down, floating in something brownish. You hope it's meat stock. You pray it's not rat broth. You never ask. You just eat. Water is worse. The cistern is shared. Always tepid. Always questionable. The surface has stuff floating in it. Hair. Bugs. Once a finger. You learn not to look. You drink with your eyes closed and your mind elsewhere. Sometimes they add vinegar to it. For purification, they say. All it does is burn your throat and remind you that taste is a privilege. And then there are the feast days. Oh, the tease of it. The rich nobles in the stands get roasted piglets, honey cakes, amphorae of sweet wine. You get to smell it. Maybe see a crust tossed your way if a senator's son is feeling generous/malicious. Once someone caught a half-eaten apple. They were tackled by 3 men and lost a tooth over it. There are rats, occasionally roasted, quietly, illegally. You've eaten one. Of course you have. Don't act surprised. You skinned it with a rusted knife and cooked it over a stolen oil lamp behind the barracks. It was stringy, gamey, still better than the porridge. Sometimes when food runs low, things get creative. One guy started stealing bones from the refuse pile to suck the marrow. Another tried boiling straw. It didn't go well. He didn't die, but he stopped blinking for a while. You get used to the hunger. Sort of. It's like an extra limb. Always there. Always twitching. you dream of fruit. Grapes, figs, olives soaked in brine. And in the dream, you actually get to taste them, not just stare at them rotting on some merchant's cart as you're marched through the market in chains. You once saw a gladiator collapse mid-fight, just tipped over like a chopped tree. Not a scratch on him, just gone, starved, dehydrated. The crowd booed, called it unprofessional. He was buried in a trench, no marker, no bread. And still you go back to the bucket, every morning, every night, because that gruel is the only thing keeping your heart beating. Because when you're a gladiator, food isn't fuel, it's bribe money for your own body. Keep going, it says, just a little longer. Maybe tomorrow they'll toss in a bean. Maybe tomorrow the bread won't shatter your jaw. Maybe tomorrow you'll get a taste of something that reminds you you're human. Probably not. Next up. Let's talk about fear. Real fear. The kind that sleeps next to you, watches you eat, waits backstage with a dagger. The fear that isn't the lion's. It starts before you wake. A tightness in your chest. A flutter behind your ribs. That creeping, sour throb in the base of your skull like someone's whispering. You're not safe directly into your bones. You open your eyes and nothing's happened yet. But your body already knows something is wrong. Something is always wrong. The barracks is quiet, too quiet. And not in the peaceful birdsong kind of way. In the someone died in here overnight and nobody wants to say it kind of way. You glance around. One mat is empty, no blanket, no sandals, no explanation. You don't ask, you know better. When people vanish, it's not by accident. Sometimes they're punished, sometimes sold, sometimes found twitching under the latrine stairs with foam in their mouth and wide staring eyes. Either way, they're gone. You sit up slowly. Every movement feels watched. And you realize it probably is. One of the guards leans by the door, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Not looking for trouble, just hoping for it. You don't make eye contact. You never make eye contact. That's rule one, don't be interesting. Interesting people get noticed. Noticed people get picked for what you don't want to know. You already know. You stretch. You move. You go through the motions. But fear moves with you like a second skin. Every whisper in the yard, every clatter of a dropped sword. Every time someone laughs too loud, it all hits you like a warning. Because you've seen what happens when the wrong person says the wrong thing. It's not just punishment. It's performance. Public floggings. Naked beatings. The kind where you're made to watch because fear is contagious. And Rome loves to spread it. You remember Cato? Big guy, loud, made jokes. One day he laughed during a training speech. The doctore didn't even raise his voice, just smiled. Later, Cato was chained to the practice post and lashed 30 times. His back looked like a map drawn by someone having a nervous breakdown. The next morning, he couldn't walk. The morning after that gone, you never laughed again. Then there's the arena. Sure, fear is loud in there. The crowd. The drum, the rush of battle, but it's a different kind of fear. It's hot, immediate, tactical. You can see the thing that wants to kill you. You can swing at it, even if you lose, it's fast. Mostly, but here outside the sand, fear is quiet. It's cold, it sneaks, it watches, it waits. You eat your meal, if you can call it that, with shaking fingers. Not from hunger, from tension. Because one word, one slip, one wrong glance, and suddenly your ration goes to someone else. Or you're denied water. Or worse, you're put into special matches. You've heard of those. Everyone has matches where the blades are real, not dulled, not blunted. Real iron, real edges, real endings, and they don't tell you in advance. You just walk out and realize you're fighting someone who wants to kill you. Not because they hate you, but because they're just as afraid as you, and God's help you if you win too often. That's the other fear, the upside down one, because then people expect things from you. You get attention, fame, a name, The crowd starts to chant. The trainers start to smile. The lanista starts to count coin. And just like that, you're a favorite. And favorites, they're valuable, which means you get tested. Matched against worse odds. Thrown into bigger crowds. You're a brand now. And brands don't rest. But fear isn't just in the system. It's in the people. Your own comrades. The ones who sleep beside you. Eat beside you. Fight beside you. Until the day they're told you're the one standing in their way of a pardon, or a promotion, or a loaf of bread. You learn to sleep lightly. You keep your back to the wall. You hide your good sandals. You eat fast, speak slow, and never ever turn your back on someone who's been quiet too long. And at night, the fear doesn't fade. It shifts into dreams, half memories, waking jolts. You dream of blood, screams, faces without names. Sometimes you wake gasping. Once you woke screaming. You didn't do it again. Not because it stopped, but because screaming gets attention, and attention gets you hurt. So you lie there, eyes wide, muscles tense, listening to the creaks of the barracks, the coughs, the rats, the silence that follows every sudden thud. And you wonder, not for the first time, if sleep is just fear in disguise. Next up, let's talk about relationships, friends, enemies. That guy who shared his last crust with you and then tried to stab you during a group match. Because here, trust is the ultimate gamble. There's a moment right after drills and just before the next round of soul erosion, when someone hands you a crust of bread. Nothing special, nothing warm. It's hard cracked at the edges, half covered in grit. But it's given, freely, no trade, no favor owed, just handed to you with a tired shrug and a grunt that could mean eat up or don't die yet. You take it, you chew it, you nod. That's friendship gladiator style. You don't know his name. Maybe you did once. Maybe it was Gaius, or Titus, or something with a lot of syllables that used to mean something when people still had last names. Now, he's just that guy with the limp, or the one who sharpened your sword that time. That's how friendships start here. A shared wound, a shared enemy. A moment where neither of you is actively stabbing the other. But trust is expensive. You tried it once, back in your first week. Flaccus shared water with you, told you about his daughter, gave you advice on how to hold your shield without losing a forearm. You slept back to back for safety. You thought maybe, just maybe, this place hadn't crushed everything human in you. Then came the team match. 2 sides, 1 prize. They said fight as brothers, so you did. Until the last moment. Until it was just you and Flaccus. 1 winner, 1 applause, 1 bowl of meat stew. You hesitated. He didn't. He got the stew. You got a scar under your chin that still itches when it rains. You don't hate him. You understand him. That's worse. Now you keep your relationship shallow. A nod, a muttered joke, a quiet offer to watch someone's back during drills. But nothing that can be used. Nothing they can twist when the instructor says the last one standing gets a bath this week. Romance, that's a joke. You've seen some men try. Whispered sweet nothings behind the barracks, hands brushing while cleaning armor. But love in here is like a butterfly in a meat grinder. Brief, beautiful, and absolutely doomed. The lucky ones keep it secret. The unlucky ones, public punishment for moral weakness. One guy was whipped just for holding hands. Another disappeared after being caught sharing a blanket. Still connection finds a way. Sometimes in looks, sometimes in quiet songs hummed at night. Once a man carved his lover's name into the wall with a nail. It stayed there for 3 days before someone smeared mud over it. You try not to get close, but sometimes you slip. You notice the guy who always gives his portion of porridge to the sick. The one who hums lullabies in a language you don't know. The old veteran who ties everyone's sandals tighter before a match because loose laces trip heroes. You pretend you don't care, but you do. And that's dangerous, because every relationship is a countdown. One of you is going to be sent into a match you don't walk out of, or a punishment that leaves you drooling in a corner. Or worse, you're both thrown into the ring together. It'll be dramatic, they say, like a tragedy. The crowd loves tragedy. So you train beside someone you could love. You eat beside someone who could kill you. You sleep beside someone who might save your life one day, or end it with a rock to the head and a whispered apology. That's the real fear. Not the beasts, not the heat, not the pain. It's hope, because hope hurts. Hope says maybe he won't betray me. Maybe we'll both be spared. Maybe they'll cheer so loud they give us our freedom. But you know better. You've seen Hope's skeletons. They're buried under the sand, under the floorboards, inside the cracks of this place. And yet, you keep the bread he gave you, just a crust, hidden under your mat. You know it'll mold soon. Attract bugs, maybe rats, but for one night, it reminds you someone saw you as human. That's more dangerous than any sword you'll face tomorrow. Next up, nightfall. The hour when the fear settles in the gods go quiet, and the real darkness begins inside your mind. Night doesn't fall in the ludus. It settles, slowly, like dust or despair. The kind of darkness that doesn't soothe, it presses. It seeps in through the cracks in the shutters under the door into your chest. There are no stars, no cool breeze, just the heat of unwashed bodies, the groan of the beams above you, and the quiet, wet sound of someone 2 mats over trying to cry without being heard. You lie still, on your side, one leg curled to keep pressure off your ribs, your arms folded like a corpse in a bad mosaic. You don't sleep, not yet. First comes the waiting. You listen to the sound of breathing around you, the occasional fart, the unmistakable rhythmic scratching of lice-ravaged scalps. You hear someone mumble in their sleep. You hear someone else whisper a prayer under their breath, soft, pleading, terrified. You can't make out the words, just the tone, the kind of prayer that knows it won't be answered. You stare at the ceiling, or where the ceiling should be. It's too dark to see now. You know every crack in that roof, every stain. You've memorized it, not because it matters, but because it's the only view you get most nights. That, and the inside of your eyelids. You used to try dreaming. You'd picture rivers, trees, a woman's face, a real bed. But now your brain knows better. It skips the fantasy and goes straight to the screaming. Because this is the hour of ghosts. You try to keep your thoughts small, practical. How many fights since your last decent meal? How many men left in your cohort? Is your left arm healing or rotting? You scratch your elbow, smell your fingers, rotting. Probably, but the thoughts never stay small. They grow, they spread, they take root. You start wondering what happened to your family, your home, the people who used to know your face. Do they think you're dead? Do they hope you're dead? You imagine a mother lighting a candle, a brother pretending not to cry, a girl from the market with a laugh like wind chimes gone now, or worse, still there, still living, still breathing clean air while you lie in this box of pain and piss and flickering torchlight. You shift. Your blanket sticks to your leg, damp again. You think about lice. You think about the man 3 mats away who started coughing blood 2 days ago. You think about whether he'll die tonight, and whether someone will notice before the smell starts. Then you think about your death, not the if, the how. Will it be fast? A blade to the neck, a lucky strike, or slow guts spilling onto the sand while the crowd throws garlands and bets on whether you'll crawl before you collapse. You wonder what kind of scream you'll make, if it'll be high, ugly, if anyone will remember it. If that will be your legacy. Your hand drifts to your stomach, still sore, still bloated with fear and bad barley. You press on the bruise by your ribs, just to feel something you chose, pain you own, And still somewhere in this sludge of thought, there's something worse than pain. It's the silence, because night is long in the ludus. And silence makes space for remembering. You remember the first man you killed, his face, his eyes, the sound he made. You didn't mean to. It was training, an accident. That's what they told you. But the sound of his breath leaving wet fast final has lived in your ears ever since. Some nights, it's louder than your heartbeat. You remember every face that didn't come back, every spot on the mat that stayed empty, every blood stain no one cleaned. You remember a name. You whisper it. You don't know why. Maybe because it's all that's left of him. You roll over. Slowly, your hip pops. You pull your knees up. Try to hide in yourself. The man beside you shifts too. He's awake. You don't speak. You never do. But there's comfort in the closeness, in knowing someone else is in the same hole with you, that you're not the only one counting heartbeats in the dark. Outside, the wind picks up. A shutter creaks. A rat scurries. Somewhere a torch fizzles out. You feel the fear start to fade, not because it's gone, but because exhaustion finally dulls it. You let go. You slide toward unconsciousness, slow and heavy, like sinking into a warm bog. And just before you drift off completely, one last thought flashes through your mind. You survived today, and tomorrow you'll do it again. Probably. Next up, we reach the final stretch. Death, legacy, and what it really means to win in a world that wants you to die spectacularly. You wake up slower today, not from peace, from depletion. Your body's a soup of bruises and half-healed scars. And your brain, it lags, like it's buffering a nightmare that never stopped playing. You lie there motionless, just blinking into the dirty dawn light, as the world reminds you, yep, still here, still not dead. And for the first time in a while, that feels disappointing. You sit up, not because you want to, because you have to. That's how most things work here. Want is a myth. Survival is momentum. You roll to your feet. You wince. Your thigh throbs. Your back cracks. But you move. And that's enough. The barracks is quiet. Thinner. Fewer mats filled. The man 2 beds down who muttered prayers every night. You don't ask where. You know, no one says he died. That would be too honest. Too real. They say he didn't make it. He didn't get up. They took him out. Phrases meant to soften the inevitable. You don't speak them. You just watch the empty spot and wonder when yours will be next. You shuffle out into the courtyard. Another list is being read. Fighters being selected. Today's matches. Today's sacrifices. You're not on it. Not this time. And the relief that hits you is almost embarrassing. Your knees nearly give out. Not from weakness, but from gratitude, which here is just relief. You get to live long enough to hurt more tomorrow. You're given a task instead. Moving bodies. Not from the arena, those are cleaned up quickly. Public-facing death gets the nice handling. You're cleaning out the sick ward. A long, shallow room near the back of the compound. No windows, just the smell. Sweat piss rot, and that sharp, undeniable tang of blood that's been there too long. You haul out 2 bodies, one wrapped in cloth, one not. The second one's eyes are still open. You don't close them. You don't look away either. That's the rule, don't flinch. Not at death. Not anymore. They're dumped in a pit outside the walls. Not buried. Just dumped. Quick. Quiet. No rites. No names. No fire. Rome doesn't burn trash. It buries it. You toss the last one in. Step back. A fly buzzes around your mouth. You swat it. It dodges. Lands on your arm. You stare at it, watching it drink from the sweat on your skin, and wonder how many men that same fly has landed on this week. You walk back arm shaking, not from the weight, from what's under it, because that could be you. Soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe today. Later you sit in the dirt behind the barracks, sipping water that tastes like copper and mold. A trainer walks by. He doesn't speak. He just tosses a coin at your feet. You blink at it. Bronze. Low value. A token. You've been consistent, he says. Might get promoted. You don't respond. Because what does that mean? That you'll be allowed to kill more people? That they'll paint your name on a wall? That some drunk merchant will shout your nickname in the streets? Is that legacy? You think about the others. The ones who didn't scream. The ones who died well. The ones who begged. The ones who pissed themselves in front of thousands. Do they remember, do you? You can't even recall half their names. And that's the truth, isn't it? No one's going to remember you. Not really. Maybe your name gets etched in some public list for a few weeks. Maybe someone scrawls a graffiti caricature of you with cross, swords and a stupid grin. Maybe a boy in the stands will pretend to be you, with a stick in his backyard, until a new name takes your place. But you, the real you vanish. Legacy isn't glory, it's use. Rome remembers what it can use. The rest, it forgets, and you are all already fading. You sit there, watching the flies, listening to the muffled clash of wood against wood. As the next group trains for their turn in the meat parade, you don't move. You think about death, not with fear now, but with familiarity. Like a neighbor, like a roommate, like a shadow that's been walking just one step behind you all this time and is finally about to catch up. And maybe, just maybe, that's okay. Because in Rome, dying isn't failure. It's just the final act of the show. Next up, the ending. Your final scene. Maybe sleep. Maybe silence. Maybe something else. The sky over Rome bleeds orange as the sun drops behind the rooftops. The city doesn't sleep, not really. But the ludus quiets. One torch still burns near the entrance. It crackles and hisses, throwing long shadows across the walls. Twisted silhouettes of broken men on even more broken beds. You're back inside now, lying on your mat. If it can still be called a mat. More like a dent in a pile of straw where a person once lived. Your bones ache. Your muscles twitch. You can feel your heartbeat in your teeth. Every bruise, every scab, every burn from the sun and chafe from the wool. Each one pulses like a slow drum roll, not of pain anymore, just of existence. That low, dull throb that says you're still here. Someone is snoring softly. Someone else coughs a wet, rattling thing that sounds like it came from deep in the lungs. Maybe the last thing you'll ever say. You close your eyes, not to sleep, just to stop seeing, just to rest the idea of seeing. Your mind is too loud anyway. You try to count your breaths. You lose track. You try to remember your name. The real one. The one your mother whispered. The one your sister used to shout when she chased you down the street laughing. It's, there, somewhere. Like a coin at the bottom of a dark fountain. You reach for it. You can't quite touch it. You think about how this all started. One bad day. One wrong word. One unlucky encounter. Or maybe it wasn't just one thing. Maybe it was always coming. Rome is hungry. It eats men like you. Breaks them. Brands them. Throws them into the dirt. And then asks the crowd to clap while they bleed. But the crowd's gone now. Just the rats. The guards. The dim light of the torch. And the warmth of your own breath in the dark. And for a moment, just a moment, you wonder, what if this is it? What if you don't wake up? Not dramatically, not in the arena, not with a sword in your chest and a poetic death gurgle on your lips, just quietly, just here, on this straw, like so many before you. No applause, no spectacle, no name, no one to even notice until the smell kicks in. Would it matter? Would anyone remember? And the brutal truth is, probably not. Rome forgets fast. Faster than your wounds heal. You'll be replaced before your sweat dries. Another nameless man shoved into your spot on the sand, swinging a dull blade and praying to gods that never answer. But you'll vanish. And weirdly, that thought doesn't scare you anymore, because now it frees you. You stop thinking about tomorrow. You stop worrying about matches, promotions, infection, the cut on your ankle, the blood in your cough. None of it matters. All that matters is this. You're here. You've survived one more day. And maybe that's all there ever was. Not glory, not vengeance, not honor, just endurance. You shift onto your side, pull the blanket over your shoulder. It's still scratchy, still damp, still smells like the end of the world, but it's yours. Someone whispers something across the room. You don't answer. You just breathe, slowly, quietly, the way only a man who's truly deeply tired can breathe. You don't cry. You're past crying. There's nothing left to cry from. You close your eyes, and for the first time all day, everything stops. No noise, no thoughts, no pain, just dark, just silence, just sleep. Or maybe something better. Maybe this is what peace looks like after all. You don't wake with a start. You just notice the light, pale, grey, soft, like ash. It's not dawn. Not really. It's that strange hour before the day begins, but after the night has stopped pretending to protect you, you blink. Your eyes are crusted. Your mouth tastes like old iron and bile. Your body doesn't scream when you move. It sighs, like even it knows this is the last time it has to do this. There's no shouting, no drills, no assignments. It's your rest day, the kind they give you once in a while, not because they care, but because the body needs a break before it snaps in half mid-spectacle. You're allowed to sit, to walk, to not be stabbed today. A luxury by Luda's standards. You step outside. The air is cooler than usual, crisp. It smells like dust and wood smoke and the faint promise of rain. You wonder if the arena floods when it storms. You've never seen it rain here. You don't even know if Rome remembers how the yard is almost empty. A few others shuffle around. Ghosts in sandals. No one speaks. They just nod. There's no joy in surviving anymore. Just a quiet solidarity, like ants who've stopped asking where the queen went. You sit on the stone bench by the wall, the warmest spot when the sun hits just right. You run your hands over the surface. It's covered in scratches, names, scores, symbols, some old faded beyond reading, some fresh. You see one that's yours, not carved, just scratched in soot. You wipe it away without thinking. You stare at your hands, the calluses, the scars, the places where the skin never fully healed. This isn't the body you were born into. That one had soft palms, straight fingers, hopes. This one's a tool, a ruin, a memory waiting to forget itself. You think for a moment about escape. Not seriously, not anymore. You heard stories when you were new gladiators who climbed the walls, bribed guards, vanished into the hills. They always end the same court, crucified, paraded, or worse, forgotten entirely, disappearing in a world that never learned your name to begin with. You could run, but to where, who would take you, feed you, heal you? No escape is for stories. You're here, and that means something. Or it could, maybe, you think about the crowd, how they shout your name, not your real one, the one they gave you. The wolf, the ghost, the scourge, something dramatic, something they can cheer for while you bleed onto imported sand. You wonder how many people know the face behind that name. How many even care? You picture someone watching you from the stands, a child, bright eyes, watching your every move like you're a god carved in flesh, not knowing you sleep in a lice pit and eat from a bucket. Not knowing you piss blood and dream of silence. Would they still cheer? Would you? You stand, slowly, legs shaky, but you're used to that now. You walk toward the far wall, the one with the ivy creeping over the top. It's the only green thing here. You touch a leaf. It's real, soft, cool, fragile. You press it between your fingers like a prayer, and then you speak, out loud, just once. This is the last one. You don't know what you mean. Maybe the last morning, the last breath, the last time your name's written on a list. You're not afraid, not anymore. You're tired, and that's not the same. You walk back inside. The barracks is quiet. A few men still sleeping, a few pretending to. You lie down, arms folded, eyes closed, and in that stillness, more than in the sand, more than in the fight, you feel something strange. Peace. Not because anything's okay, because everything's finally stopped. You think maybe they'll remember me. And then you think maybe they won't. And then finally you think nothing at all. You don't remember falling asleep. You just remember being then not. And now you're drifting. Somewhere between breath and memory. Between heartbeat and silence. It's warm here, but not from the sun. There's no sand in your mouth. No metal in your hands. No crowd screaming your name because they forgot how to feel anything else. There's just stillness. No pain. No armor. No scratchy wool tunic scraping over a fresh bruise. You are weightless, thoughtless, free of everything Rome ever nailed to your spine. You don't know if this is death, or dreaming, or something in between. All you know is it's quiet, blessedly, achingly quiet. And from that quiet, something stirs, not sound, not light, a voice, not a Roman voice, not the bark of a trainer, or the jeer of a drunk citizen in the stands. This one is softer, distant, but clear and familiar. It's them, the listener, the one wrapped in a blanket, holding their breath, sitting in the glow of a screen sipping tea, scrolling past distractions. The one who came here for something soothing, something educational, something sleepy. And you speak to them now. Yes, you over there, in the present, in the warm house, with the snacks and the safety, and the scented candle flickering behind you like a tiny modern temple to peace. You live in a world of cushions, of thermostats, of painkillers and personal space and people who say, I see you, without following it up with a punch to the gut. And you have no idea what it cost to get you there. You don't wake up on straw. You don't eat from buckets. You don't pray to cruel gods because the ones you had got bored. You don't worry if the person sleeping next to you is going to kill you for an extra crust of bread. You don't wear wool until it draws blood and then call it uniform. But here you are, listening. And for some reason that matters. Because if you're here hearing this, it means the voice didn't die with the body. It means the story made it. Through fire, through time, through empire, through silence. You're not just watching a world fall apart. You're the only one left to remember it. You shift under your blanket. You blink at your screen. You think, was it really that bad? Yes it was. And also weirdly, no. Because even in the dust and the blood and the screaming, there was something human. The way they shared crusts of bread, the way someone sang before sleep, the way you could lie in the dirt with one good hand and still reach for the sun, that mattered too. So now, as the final ember of this day flickers out, here's the truth. You would have hated being a gladiator. You would have cried, bled, broken, starved. You would have died screaming to the sound of people clapping. And none of it would have been fair. But maybe now you carry the fairness they never got. Maybe now as you drift off under clean sheets and a quiet roof, you'll remember them, not as heroes, not as savages, but as people, real people, with names and laughter, and all the same stupid fears you still carry under your skin. You think you're soft. Good. You're allowed to be, because they weren't. Now sleep. Dream gentle modern dreams. And if you wake up tomorrow with breath in your lungs, clean water in your cup and nobody shouting for you to fight for their amusement, then you've already won. Hey, you made it. I know that was a lot. You started this journey maybe out of curiosity, maybe to learn, maybe just to fall asleep to the sound of a voice, and instead you wandered through a world of pain, hunger, betrayal, and brutal survival. through a life you would have never chosen, through a body that didn't belong to you, through a day that refused to end. But now, it's over. You're back in your space now. Right where you are, the room around you is quiet. The world outside is still. Maybe it's late. Maybe you've already closed your eyes. Maybe you're just lying there, one arm under the blanket, the other still curled near your heart, like you're holding onto something soft, something small, something real. Let yourself feel that. Breathe in. Exhale slow. There are no crowds here, no walls, no fights, no one shouting your name for sport. You don't need to win anything tonight. There is no arena. There is no blood. There is only this moment, this breath, and this body. Yours. Safe. Soft. Enough. You've already survived everything worth surviving. Maybe your eyes are still open. That's okay. You don't have to close them. You don't have to do anything. Just lie here. Let the weight of the day slide off your shoulders like that heavy armor they forced you to wear. Let your jaw unclench. Let your stomach settle. Let your breath move the blanket just slightly with each slow, even inhale, because this is your rest. You've earned it. The world can wait. The noise can wait. You don't have to scroll. You don't have to plan. You don't have to hold yourself together like a crumbling ruin. You are not a monument. You are not a relic of pain. You are a person, a soul, a stillness, and you are here, now. Let yourself drift. It's okay if the thoughts still bubble. That's normal. Let them rise and pass like little clouds. You've just wandered through centuries. You don't have to silence your mind. You only have to let go of the fear, of the noise, of the sand and sweat and stone. It's gone now, and what's left is just peace and sleep. Soft, heavy, dreamless sleep. The kind that washes you clean and puts the pieces back where they belong. The kind your body understands even when your mind is tired of trying. So sleep. Sleep knowing you remember, that you saw what they lived through, that you walked in their footsteps and felt their bones. Sleep knowing you are not there. You are here, safe, whole, warm. And tomorrow, when you wake, it'll be another quiet chance to live gently, to be kind to drink water without tasting rust, to walk outside without a sword to hug someone, without wondering if they'll kill you for it. Tomorrow will be a softer day, and you'll be ready for it. Good night, friend. You made it through the Colosseum. Now close your eyes and rest. Maybe you're still here, half awake, or barely. Maybe your eyes fluttered open again, just to make sure the world hadn't shifted back to swords and sand. It hasn't. You're still here. That faint hum of electricity, that fabric against your skin, the faint creak of your bed or your couch, or wherever you've made your quiet nest tonight. This is safety. Not the kind Rome offered sharp and conditional, but the kind you didn't have to earn with your blood. You don't have to prove anything to anyone right now. Not your strength, not your cleverness, not your endurance, not your usefulness. You are not an asset. You are a person, and people deserve to rest. So if your thoughts are still tumbling, let them. They can unravel here slowly without judgment. You don't have to stop them. Just notice. Watch them pass, like smoke curling into the dark. You don't have to chase sleep. It will come. Maybe not as fast as you want, but that's okay. Just be still. Just be warm. And remember, there is no arena tomorrow. No screaming crowd. No rusted helmet. No bruises to measure your worth. All that's behind you now, part of someone else's memory. Part of a history that bent, but didn't break you. You're allowed to soften. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to be a little human and a little fragile and a little dreamy in the stillness of your own little world. So close your eyes again. Loosen your jaw. Feel your spine settle into the mattress like sand pouring into an hourglass. And if there's still a small part of you gripping the day, let it go. There's nothing left to fight. You survived it. You're safe now. Sleep. Really sleep. Sleep like the empire fell and you weren't beneath it.